This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the Acer Predator Helios 300. That's a lot of names in there, isn't it? So this is their mid-tier gaming laptop. The Nitro 5 in the 15-inch size would be the entry-level model. This one sits in the middle, and then, of course, there are more expensive Helios models, like the Helios 500. So this one has a lot to offer, though, for the price. It starts around $1,200 with an RTX 2060 and an Intel Core i7 10th Gen CPU. We have the RTX 2070 Max-Q model, which is around $1,500. You might find it on sale for less, but for that money you get a metal lid, you get fast 240 hertz refresh display, pretty good cooling on this, and it's quite, relatively speaking, for a gaming laptop, thin and light. We're going to look at it now. And now a shout out to our sponsor, Wondershare, and their demo creator. This is for Windows, and it's also coming for Mac. You know, I tried it, and I actually really like it. What is it? It's a screen capture and video editing utility. So, you know what a screen capture is. So you need to record, say, gaming. Like we do a lot of gaming footage to show you how well laptops like this perform. So you can do that, but not just that. The video editor is really very simple to use. It's pretty intuitive. It reminds me of iMovie a little bit. I think anybody can learn it. So you record your clips, and you can do things like split your clips, put in transitions, put in title screens. You can change the playback speed. You can crop it. You can choose the resolution. But you've got things like annotation, or you can put a little fireworks going in the video, which is something you certainly don't usually see in a capture utility. Also, it's obviously great for things like training, software demos, if you're a teacher and you have to make lessons for school, that sort of thing. Be sure to check out the link in the description to get a hold of it. It's very affordable. In fact, there's even a free version that has a watermark on it, unlike the paid version of it. And now back to our video. So confession, I actually don't mind gaming laptops that look like gaming laptops as long as they look kind of cool. Well, cool to my eyes. Obviously, the Predator tries to look a little more chill. You've got anodized matte black aluminum on the lid, but you do get those blue stripes, hey, instead of red anyway. And the logo looks so cheap. It looks like a piece of plastic just glommed right on there. Kind of takes away from the looks, which is too bad. But it's a little more toned down than the Nitro, which is also kind of a chill matte black, but it has a reddish, sort of reddish accents. Well, you can see. We'll put them both on screen for you now so you can compare. The Nitro is around $1,000 with an RTX 2060 and a Core i7, so it is about $200 less than the entry-level Predator. Of course, the Nitro is all plastic, and our Predator Helios has a more robust cooling system, which is always important for a gaming laptop. And of course, that 240 hertz IPS matte 3 millisecond refresh display. There is a base model which is 144 hertz, which is still nothing to sneeze at. And speaking of the display, actually the metrics on it are pretty good. We checked it out with our colorimeter. It's a little brighter than average for a gaming laptop. They typically aren't very bright. So it was over 300 nits by a good amount there, and pretty good color gamut. So that's a nice sell. For something that is, again, mid-tier, usually in gaming laptops, the display is what takes the hit. They don't get the greatest quality displays. So this one's better than average, which could be nice for those of you who are thinking of using this for content creation, photo editing, video editing, doing some 3D Blender work or something like that. Inside we have an Intel 10th Gen Core i7 6-core CPU. We have 2 RAM slots, so you could, in theory, you should be able to go up to 64 gigs, though Acer only mentions going up to 32 gigs. This DDR4 RAM, ours has 16 gigs. They sell dual channel configurations in 16 and 32 gigs. You have not just the M.2 boot SSD drive, which is NVMe and benchmarked pretty well on ours, but you also have a hard drive bay. Even if you buy a configuration that doesn't have a 2.5-inch hard drive, the bracket's in place, and they include the connector cable that you need to put that in for yourself, which is sweet. The cooling system on this is, relatively speaking, again, in this price tier, pretty robust, and I think that helps because this is fairly thin and light. Acer says it's 5.5 pounds, which is 2.5 kilograms, but ours actually measured a little bit less than that, so yay go that. When playing games, yes, if you're playing AAA titles on ultra settings at full HD resolution, which is exactly what we do in our tests that you see running on screen, well, yes, it will thermal throttle, but 100 millivolt undervolt using throttle stop, no problem. That brings it down 8 degrees centigrade. You can see the temperature difference right now in one game where I was actually undervolting it. But still, for something this thin and light, the temperatures are not that bad, especially in this price tier. And again, for those of you who like to fiddle and tinker and all that sort of thing with things like undervolting, you can do that. They have the Acer Predator Sense app as always on this, and you can do things like give the GPU a mild overclock, set your fan speeds manually if you want. Certainly that could help with cooling. Speaking of the fans, Not terribly loud. I mean, it's a gaming laptop. Yes, you will hear them when you're doing things like gaming or if you're doing a complex render in Blender or something like that, but not that loud. So there is certainly thermal headroom there for going even higher. They also have the turbo button built in keyboard deck there, and that one basically does the GPU overclock, sets the power profile to high performance, and blasts the fan some. And probably most people don't want it to get that loud either. You might get about 5% more performance improvement by doing that, but yeah. If you get this, play with the fan profiles on this and do a little undervolting and good times, especially for the price, once again. It has a Microsoft Precision trackpad, no complaints with that. That keyboard is a 4-zone RGB backlit. We don't expect per key RGB backlighting at this price point. The keys are a little on the soft and mushy side. Pretty decent travel, but I would like them to be a little bit firmer and a little bit crisper. It's not a hideous keyboard or anything like that, though, but you know, if you like that crispy kind of firm keyboard, this one would not be it. Speaking of the internals, again, there is a second NVMe SSD slot, and it is possible to set up 2 drives in RAID 0 if you want to do that. Acer mentions Thunderbolt 3 for some of the configurations. Others, I think, just have USB-C, but the rest of the ports on here are pretty hardy. You've got killer Ethernet. By the way, you also have killer Wi-Fi 6 on board, which is an Intel-based card, so that's good. But you got plenty of USB-A ports. You got 3 of those. You got your mini display port 1.4 in addition to the HDMI 2.0. So yeah, it's pretty well equipped, and obviously a headphone jack. When it comes to the speakers, they're average. They're not so great. They're not so terrible. Again, fitting for this price range. There's Dolby DTS-X Ultra software there, so if you're plugging in a set of surround sound speakers or something like that, you can get some pretty nice audio out of it, and even your headphone audio quality is quite fine on this, but speakers, they're all right. That's about it. It has a 59 watt-hour battery, which is, you know, this is how they get them thin and they get them light, folks, in this price tier, so that's not a very big battery. It's a little bigger than you would see in an Ultrabook, but there's obviously a lot more horsepower going on here to consume it. We do have NVIDIA Optimus switchable graphics. No G-Sync, by the way, but so that's going to help. If you're doing light work, you're just streaming video or something like that, or working in Office, then it's going to run on integrated graphics. But still, you don't expect a whole lot of battery life out of this, you know, about 4 hours on a charge, doing light work. I don't mean really pushing it hard and doing 3D renders or something like that. Our Max-Q 2070 card came with a 230 watt charger. I assume that you probably get a 180 watt charger for the lesser configuration with a 2060 inside. Speaking of that 2070 Max-Q, yeah, it's the Max-Q version of the card, which does help this run less hot. But the performance is exactly where you would expect it to be, which is to say that 2070 Max-Q is not mid-range. It's getting into upper tier there. So you can play any game on the market now on ultra settings and certainly have frame rates that exceed 60 frames per second on this. And given that you have a fast refresh display, if you're using it for something more like Battle Royale or Apex Legends, you know, those kind of things, you can easily go into the hundreds in your frame rate with this, which is sweet. You're not going to overrun the 240 hertz display, but maybe with something even lighter, less demanding, like Overwatch. You just might come closer to that. So it punches above its weight there. And if you're thinking about future games like Cyberpunk 2077 is coming out soon, this should be able to handle absolutely no problem. Okay, the bottom cover is plastic, unlike the lid that is metal, and that means real tight fit, unfortunately. Phillips head screws, to unscrew it, that part's easy, start at the front edge. And notice that the front edge is a wraparound kind of thing. So you see that? So that's how that works. So you have to get that off first, and then you go around the sides, and then the back also wraps around. So just so you can see where the separation point is, because it might be a little confusing because of all the little grill decor. So that entire thing comes off. And then we finally get inside. It's not much fun, folks, but you can do it. We have speaker vents on the side, plenty of ventilation over here for the CPU and GPU and the fans, and ta-da! So there's our battery, again, 59 watt hour, not really terribly big. 2 RAM slots. We have dual channel memory there, 16 gigs, an ARM model. The speakers are flanking over here. They're pretty small, and that's why, well, the sound is pretty small on this. And nice heat sinks. See, all of this is not some teeny-weeny little thing. We've got a lot of component coverage here, so that does help it run, relatively speaking, for a gaming laptop with an Intel 10th Gen CPU, not too hot. And here is our boot SSD. We got a 512 gig in ours, and right next to it is the killer Wi-Fi card. That's the 1650i. Wi-Fi 6 card based on Intel hardware. And there is a second SSD slot over here. This is where the SSD would plug in. It's kind of a tight fit there, but hey. And the hard drive bay visible, and we've got the mounting hardware there, even though we don't have a drive. And again, the cable that's required to connect the drive to the motherboard is in the box. So that's the Acer Predator Helios, the 2020 edition with Intel 10th generation CPUs and, in our case, the RTX 2070 Max-Q GPU. But even if you get the RTX 2060, it's no slouch, and you'll still be able to play games on high or ultra settings at the full HD resolution in this panel. For the price, it's not bad. It competes, obviously, with things like the Dell G5, MSI's mid-range gaming laptops. But as always, I think Acer really does a good job with the low to mid-end on the gaming laptop front. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos and hit the notification bell so you know about them.